The fourth photo retouching project is probably the most difficult one, and I'll get started on it here. It's got the name of Baby Pic. This is an old image that a student brought in many years ago. It was ripped from an old scrapbook, and in those days, for some reason, they had little wax. These lines were made of wax, and so they were sticky. And you could stick the photograph in there, and it would hold it down there with a clear cover. The trouble was that the wax might tear your picture if you tried to remove it from the scrapbook, and it also turned everything yellow. So we've got bad color, and we've got a bunch of tears. Fortunately, the face of the baby is mostly intact, except for a couple of these sort of obvious places here. I'm going to go ahead and treat this much like we've done before. I'll copy this, Command J, and then crop it with the crop tool. By showing all the rough edges, it'll make a nice comparison picture for us. Hit the wrong deal there, didn't I? Okay, let's try it this way. Alright, with the auto select turned on, you can just move that over next to it. And this will be the image that we'll be focusing on. Alright, some of the most obvious things are these tears in the cheek, and that place on the cheek is actually easier than you might think. Let me grab the patch tool here. I use the patch tool quite a bit on this one. There's a tear that extends up to here. I'm just going to use the patch tool to isolate this area. Now I want to try to I want to bring it out just far enough so I'm touching good parts of the picture and other parts that aren't torn or faded. So I'm going to kind of come in here like this and around. Now remember, the patch tool will pick up information kind of like the content aware. It picks up information from where the selection is made. As you click here to source, as you click here to, you want to use the default setting. I had it set for destination. Let me undo that. You want to leave it on source here, and then isolate the area like I did. And I know this is going to sound odd, but all you got to do is take it to a place where the texture is good. It could be over here, maybe up here, but it's not quite big enough. I'm just going to drop it right here, and then I'll deselect and zoom in, and you can see that it has done a pretty fair job of fixing that big hole in the face. Okay. Now there's some smudgy places and stuff on here where I think this has been treated with digital editing before. We're going to try to fix these smudges, and then we're going to fix all the colors here, and we're going to fix this tear. See how the patch tool does on this tear. I'm going to go all the way up here. I kind of keep it close to it. Let's see if I can do this. I'm just going to drag that up this way, trying to keep it sort of in alignment so you don't want to do it this way or this way. But if you'll keep it so it's kind of in alignment this way, you might find that it does a pretty good job. Now, it may have brought in some hair there that wasn't there before. Let's just see. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. So I'll deselect. Okay. Patch tool. fixes those pretty well. Any of these long problems like this, patch tool is good. Any of the really simple ones can be done with the spot healing brush. Maybe a little bigger brush here. Not seeing my brush size for some reason. I have to work on that. Yeah, it's not showing my brush size. There we go. Had the cap locks turned on. You see how it'll fix most all of these. That's a spot healing brush. Easiest repair tool to use. It'll also do scrubs like that. There's some tape on the picture that looks terrible. This picture's got a whole lot of problems. You can hear my mouse clicking and just going in here and fixing everything. I even fix like chemical stains and fades and stuff with this. By staying in really close, you can get it really nice. Now there's some places of this that are just so impossible to even know what was there that it makes it awfully hard to repair. The shape of this hand. You know, this stuff we can kind of fix. Okay, but there's other, mostly the hand is just, it's scratched off, it's messed up. Okay, some of these you might be able to repair with the spot healing brush. Yeah, it keeps wanting to catch an echo of right over here for some reason. Okay, remember, if the spot healing brush doesn't work, try the healing brush and sample off a place that's good, and then see if it'll help it. I got a little close to that shadow, I think. Now I got a little bit of this. So that's none of that's working very well. Let me try it again. That worked a little better. Remember, with the healing brush, it's option click on the good part and then click on the bad. So it fixed some of that stuff. Might be able to do that up here. But as I was saying, there's just some things here that are so bad that that it's difficult to fix. So I'm going to just fix a few more of these easy ones, and I'll show you what I think is best to do. Let's see if I can put some texture back into that. Now, what I did there was just a smudge, maybe kind of like a digital repair from an earlier save of this picture. And I clicked on it and it brought the texture back in. There was some missing texture. It looks like maybe it was fixed with a paintbrush. Let's see what this does. Yeah, sometimes the spot healing brush just can't quite figure out what to do. And so occasionally you can get around it by using a smaller brush. And actually that fixed it pretty well. Okay. Other times you just have to try a different tool. Keeping the brush small now and fixing some other things with the spot healing brush. Stay in close. Stay in very close. And you can fix an awful lot of this stuff with the simplest tool of all. That's the spot healing brush. Make it a little bigger. Kind of fixing this stuff up. Okay, now that hole that was in the cheek was easy to repair because it was completely surrounded by the skin of the baby. This one is not that way. Patch tool is not going to fix this one. We can give it a try and see what it does. If I try to do something like this, it brings the white and the other colors back in, and so it's like a new problem that's even harder to fix than the old one. So we don't want to do that. The other thing is about this hand is it's just so going to be so difficult to fix. I did have one student one year that took a picture of their own baby or a friend's baby, and actually spliced the hand in here, and then put a blanket over his shoulder, and made it look pretty good. But I think that probably the thing that the person who's wanting this picture repaired, main thing they're going to want is that we are able to fix the face. If we could fix this center area and maybe use an elliptical marquee to mask out part of it. Okay, here's what I think. If we can repair this much of it, if we can repair that much of it, we'll probably be all right. Okay, and that means we just have to fix a finger, maybe two, bring this arm across. Still going to be difficult enough, but doing the whole hand is going to be really hard. Okay, so actually I'm going to bring this up and center the head just a little bit more. That way I even only have two fingers that I have to do. Okay, so I'm not going to delete or inverse this at this point. What I'm going to do is just save this selection. So I'm going to go to Selection and Save Selection, and I'll call it lips, I guess. It's the main focus of the picture. So that when I save this, and you just want to go to Save, Save As, Save, and give this a new name and put it in the right folder. There we go. Didn't want to go. Okay, you want to make sure it goes into folder 2, and call it Baby Retouch. Okay, Baby Retouch. And now that I've saved that, and I've saved the selection, I can load the selection whenever I want. If I deselect, go back to Load Selection, you'll find it in there. Okay, so it's a good way to do it, just to make sure that you always have it. Now, if you've just used it, you also have Reselect. Shift-Command-D. And you can Command-D to deselect, Shift-Command-D to reselect. Now that only works for like the first few moves after you have had it up. After that, you'll need the load selection, and that's why we decided to save that. Okay, as we move into about 12 minutes here on this first on this bit of repairing here, I'll just say that for a lot of this, I use the brush, the regular old brush tool. And here's kind of how a good way to do it. Just Option and click and pick up that color. And again, it sort of looks like maybe it's been painted a little bit before. I'm just going to bring this down and bring this over. And I'm just going to cover up some of this. And I'm going to bring this in, cover up some of this. At this point right here, I'll use my click, shift, click to do a straight line. I'm just going to kind of fill that in with sort of a base color. Okay, to get the image back in here, the patch tool is really pretty amazing here. I can take an area of this. I'll just select a big area of it. As I drag it back over here, it'll return photo texture back into that. Can you see that difference? Okay. So if I deselect, that's one way to get texture back into it. As you clone with this, you can also bring color in this way. For instance, like this shadow. If I want to bring it down, get a bigger brush, Option and click with the clone stamp tool, and you can bring a little bit in like this. Or you can just use the brush, Option click, and you can just bring some of this color in like this. Okay. All right. To blur these together and make them kind of look a little more natural, I use a tool over here that we haven't looked at yet. It's called the smudge tool. Smudge tool. And the smudge tool will help you kind of blend these painted colors together. Okay, so you can kind of soften those up and bring that down. Back to the brush. Click, and you can bring in some paint color this way. Back to the smudge tool. I don't know if it's got a shortcut. I don't think it does. You can blend those together like that until they look a little better. Once you've kind of got the basic color in there, use that clone stamp tool again. I'm sorry, the patch tool. And you can grab an area like this that's really smooth looking, drag it over here, and now it's got texture in it again. And see how close that is to what that looks like? In fact, you can even keep moving that around a little bit. I think you can. Yeah. Actually, put it on destination. Then you can move it around a little bit. And you can add texture back into the collar using this. Now the patch tool is even good about kind of blending these shadows together. Okay, and at this point I think it was actually a little better, so I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, and that's kind of how I do it. I kind of borrow colors from different places. For instance, this with the brush tool, Option click, and I'll paint some of this color next to the collar. And I'll Option click and paint some of this color next to that. Then I'll smudge to kind of soften this together. And then I'll use texture. Again, you can use source or destination. I'll use the destination and grab some texture from up here, drag it down here, and it puts texture back in over that painted area. So you may want to try to do it that way and see what you think. I'll just grab a little piece of texture from here. Actually, let me get a little skinnier piece and put it right on top of that. Deselect. You can see how it kind of puts things back together. Put it up in here. And you can kind of repair that. It's a combination of the smudge tool to get the shapes just right. Brush to get the colors. Use a soft edge brush. Option and click to do the colors. Option and click. The paint will match the color, but it takes away the texture. It's the patch tool that brings the texture back in. Getting just the right shape is helpful. And again, if you're really good with it, which I'm still kind of practicing with it, you can actually get it so it looks very realistic. We'll continue to work on this with the patch tool. Do a little bit smaller area. See if I can get this to look any better. That looks a little better. It does some nice blending too, if you're careful with it. Okay, we'll do the chin and the other things in a similar manner.